Let's step through the past to find the future. You know, it's impossible to walk down Main Street, USA and miss the jewel of the street. It's nestled right there on the left corner, anchoring the corridor that carries guests down towards Cinderella Castle. It is the Main Street Emporium, and it's the largest gift store on the street, and it's continued to be expanded over the years since the opening of Walt Disney World. People who visit the Magic Kingdom when it first opened will remember that one time the Emporium was much, much smaller. Even then, though, it was massive. The expansion eventually encompassed the area previously occupied by Center Street, and inside it sells practically anything and everything to do with Disney. Clothing, books, pens, toys, stuffed creations, every type of Disney-branded gadget, gizmo, or widget that you can think of that carries that Disney name is there so you can find a treasured souvenir of your visit to the theme park. For many guests, this is the one-stop shop, and it is the must-visit location at the end of a day in the Magic Kingdom, or sometimes they can't even get into the Magic Kingdom without hitting the gift store. Entering the main doors of the Emporium, you begin to discover many things about the place, but you have to slow down and look to notice them. According to the signage at the entrance, the store was originally founded in 1863. The proprietor of the store is a man by the name of Osh Popham. And the reason we can know about Osh is because his name is found in gold leaf at the bottom of the two windows that flank the entrance on the corner of Main Street, USA, facing Town Square. If you're well versed in Disney film history, you will immediately recognize this hard-to-forget name. Osh Popham was the name of a character played by Burl Ives in the 1963 Disney film Summer Magic. In the film, Osh was a shopkeeper, postmaster, and a good-natured meddler. He helped the struggling Carey family find a new home in their little town of Beulah, Maine. And the film was memorable for such songs as On the Front Porch and the unforgettable Ugly Bug Ball. But the Imagineers decided that this character would also feature prominently into the backstory of the Emporium. For reasons undisclosed, Popham and his crew moved to Main Street, USA from New England, obviously sometime after the movie took place. And as the story goes, Osh Popham started the Emporium selling general merchandise and everyday essentials. This would be the type of store that Walt Disney might have fondly remembered back from his small town days in Marceline, or any small community across the country. But business was apparently good for Osh, and the store grew rapidly. In a short amount of time, the store was stocking the latest and greatest products from all over the world. According to the backstory, in 1901, the Emporium doubled its selling space through a major expansion, and now, like so many things in this fictional date, is loaded with meaning. The Magic Kingdom actually did greatly expand the Emporium in 2001, exactly 100 years after the year that they gave to the story. 1901 was also the year of Walt Disney's birth. So in many ways, like so many stories within the Walt Disney Resort, there are layers of meaning that can be peeled away if you want to take the time to do so. If you get a chance to walk through the shop, make sure you don't get so caught up in looking for something to buy that you miss the incredible attention to detail that you're immersed in. Take a close look at the brass. Take a look at the ornate doorknobs, the velour wallpaper, the gold-framed photos of various townfolk. Even the merchandising will keep in line with the theme. Souvenirs are displayed in the old shelves and stands, jewelry counters, and even old-fashioned candy jars. The deeper you walk inside the shop, you'll recognize the decorative Victorian style, and it gives way then to a slicker, more elite Edwardian design. A trip into the Emporium is a step back into the past that is rapidly changing, and as you walk deeper and deeper through the Emporium, you are now progressing toward the future. Walt Disney once said, "I love the nostalgic myself, and I hope we never lose sight of the things of the past." Walt was a person who understood the value of bringing lessons from the past into the present that could propel you into tomorrow, but he also discovered that was not always easy to do. If you go back into the life of Walt Disney, he should have been on top of the world in 1931. Disney Productions now employs 75 people, and they were so busy that number would just continue to expand. Although to everyone else who looked, Walt had to be considered a success. But inside, he was crumbling. The early years of trying to climb and scramble to do the things that no one else had done and simply survive were beginning to take their toll on him. He found himself no longer able to rest at night. Each evening while Lily would sleep on the couch in his office, an anxious Walt would roam the hallways of his studio. And the same questions would roll through his mind and heart over and over again. How could he face and embrace the future that stretched out before him? What next? Interestingly enough, he anchored himself to the past. As you might imagine, once Walt became a celebrity, he would often hear from people who had known him before he was a success. And so during this period of searching for something to anchor to, he began to reach backward so he could move forward. He wrote letters to McKinley High School and the Marceline News. He began correspondence with J.M. Cottingham, the man who had been the principal at Benton School, and asked with genuine interest and concern about his favorite teacher, a lady by the name of Daisy Beck. When he was sent a letter and a picture of Daisy, Walt was absolutely thrilled that she remembered him. And then Walt did something amazing. He sent the photograph back to Daisy so she could autograph it for him and personalize the photo that he would keep for the rest of his life. In remembering his school days, he wrote to his former teacher, "I don't know whether you remember or not, but I participated in several events and even won a medal one year on the championship relay team. Do you remember the time that I brought the live mouse into the classroom and you smacked me on my cheek? Boy, what a wallop you had. But I loved you even more for it." And I can still plainly see the kids marching single file into the classrooms to the rhythm of the piano in the hall. I remember how Principal Cottingham would break in at any class if he had a new story, and all work would cease until he had his fun. He had his faults, but I remember him as a swell fellow. That's what Walt remembered. And those memories of Principal Cottingham are especially interesting because once, during a geography lesson, Cottingham found Walt not paying attention to the class lesson, but instead hiding behind a big geography book in front of his face, drawing cartoons. You can almost see the action. It's the stuff of a cartoon in itself. The kid's goofing off, hiding behind a big book placed in front of him on a desk, drawing something completely unrelated to the lecture being given. Needless to say, Walt was caught and called to pay attention, and then in a very embarrassing moment in front of the entire class, the principal reprimanded Walt with the stern prediction, "Young man, you will never amount to anything." As Walt grew painfully quiet, Principal Cottingham repeated his proclamation, "Young man, you'll never amount to anything." It sounds harsh, doesn't it? And how often it is that critics are ready to tell us what we can't be. And how often they want to tell us what we can't become. And how often do they tell us what we can't do? Now, Walt should have been paying attention. So this is not a defense of goofing off by any stretch of imagination. But sometimes in our lives, we let the voice of the critics ring louder than the voice of our encouragers. Sometimes we believe the word can't or won't, and we think it has more power than the word can or try. I have no idea what you're good at. I have no idea what you're called to do or become, but I do believe that you are uniquely gifted with a special blend of gifts and talents that if you develop them and you're willing to use them, you can make the world a better place. As you share who you are with others, you become a gift to the world and at the same time will find a purpose for your life that you never knew before. Now, wrapped in that is some reality. You have to be realistic. If you're 4 feet tall and weigh a walloping 75 pounds, you're probably not going to be a middle linebacker for your favorite football team. Unless, of course, the Miami Dolphins and they need a middle linebacker. But you do have something to offer the world, and it's never too late to be who you're created to be. You can. You need to try. And you will amount to something. No doubt about it. In those early years as a filmmaker, reaching back into the past was a pivotal moment in the life of a young Walt Disney. He had already found some level of success, but now was on the brink of whether he would move beyond it and continue to move forward, or whether success would engulf him and cause his life to spiral out of control. It wasn't easy. Walt and Lily were struggling to start a family, and he'd already survived enough setbacks to sink most men, and he'd risen above them. But the journey had taken its toll. And Lily and Walt took off on what he would call a gypsy jaunt and visit Washington, Florida, Cuba, and then cruise back to California. And now, armed with a refreshing vacation and his connections with the past, he was able to step back into his destiny of being a dreamer and a doer. But before we leave this history in the life of Walt Disney, let's go back to the moment when his principal made the thundering declaration that young Walt would never amount to anything. How would the student, Walt Disney, react to that? Well, he was certainly embarrassed the moment that happened, but he didn't take it too personally. His good nature took over and he remembered the moment with a sense of humor. That's one of the reasons that years later, Walt felt compelled to reach out and connect with his former principal. He allowed the momentary embarrassment to drive him forward. And Walt Disney never quit. So each year, Walt would send Mr. Cottingham and his family Christmas cards and autographed animation cells as gifts. And of course, these came from the very boy who had now finally amounted to something. He had even arranged for the entire Benton School student body to ride buses to downtown Kansas City to see the world premiere of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs when it came out in 1938. No grudge, no hard feelings, no showing off. Just a genuine appreciation for those who had tried so hard to make him better, for those that encouraged him to study harder and had poured their lives into him. Walt knew that every moment of life was a gift to learn something. And whether the circumstances were good or bad, you could either gripe or grow. And Walt chose to make it a growing moment. He had definitely amounted to something. And so can you. You can turn the volume down on the critics in your life, no matter what they might say. Allow people to inspire you and challenge you and stretch you beyond where you already are. These moments from life give us a glimpse into what I think is another Disney-driven life lesson. Walt Disney kept a firm grasp on the past so he could reach into the future. His past helped shape him, but he didn't let his past define him, and there is a huge difference. Walt was willing to grab and take hold of his past, but he didn't let the past take hold of him. And that's why he had the amazing ability to be so nostalgic while he pioneered his way into the future. Walt said, "Never get bored or cynical. Yesterday is a thing of the past." Hidden in plain sight, among all the rich detail of the Emporium, is a large mural on the back wall of a service counter. It's supposed to display Osh Popham's happy customers and employees enjoying their shopping experiences. In the background, a rendering of his new edition can be seen. And the following words are printed on the flowing ribbon on the mural: "Shopping in the grand style, personal luxury's finest fashions." Now, at a casual glance, you might observe and perhaps be impressed with the diversity that's represented in the townspeople. What you should know, and that others may not realize, is that they are actually portraits of several of the Imagineering team who worked as they were designing and creating the Emporium. All worked in by the mural's creator, Imagineering artist Joe Warren. Even the mural itself is another part of the rich history of the lives who helped form yet another chapter that constantly, even to this day, is being added and told in the Emporium. There's one more detail that most people walk right under and miss because they never look up. The lighting fixtures are a sign of the times. The fixtures feature two sets of sconces, some facing up and some facing down. The upper facing ones have little keys under the arms, and that's because they're gas lamps. The chandeliers have been retrofitted, however, with downward-facing electrical lighting. Because electricity was a new feature that came along, it wasn't the most reliable service. And so the Imagineers telling this part of the story was that the store owner, Osh Popham, decided to keep the old gas lamps as a backup in case this newfangled thing called electricity would tap out. By doing that, if the lights went out, he could turn them back on because he had devised a way to have both in the chandelier. The light reminds us that moving from the past into the future isn't always easy. And along the way, there will always be a setback or two. Next time that you get a chance to be on Main Street, USA, visit the Emporium. Take some time to look around. Spend some money if you want to, but you don't have to. But even as you do, you'll discover a great story in the details about moving from the past into the future. And they're all part of a very carefully designed, elaborate backstory for this store. A store that reminds us that we move from the past into the future, and how we do it is important. The Disney-driven life lesson: keep a grip on the past as you reach into the future. If you do, you'll have a successful Disney-driven life.